Hi guys, my name is John Goodwin. I am the Chief Shop Steward in Boston, and I'm even wearing a TWU t-shirt, sporting some union swag to show this is a legitimate broadcast. I thought I would put together a little narration of our exciting collective bargaining agreement, which myself and the rest of the executive committee has been working on for months, going down to New York a number of times and meeting with our good friends in Motivate Senior Management. So I think we've got a really good agreement here, and I'm going to walk through some things that have changed and also just highlight to remind you of a few things that are important in case you have forgotten about some of your rights and some of the things that we've previously negotiated. First thing is the date. You notice that it says effective March 1st. Well, it's actually not effective. We have an extension that goes to April 30th, and you'll be hearing more from us very, very, very soon, like this week, with regard to the process so that we can ratify. In other words, you guys get to actually vote on this and say, yeah, we'll take this. At which time it'll be retroactive to March 1st. There's some nice things that happen for some folks with regard to money being retroactive, et cetera, but it is a 4-year agreement, and we'll get to wages a little later on. You can see what's in it for you, which is pretty important to everybody. So I'm going to scroll through this thing here. I'm going to try to put a link to the actual document so you can take a look at it. It's a page turner for sure. It reads just like a Clancy novel, but it is, especially if you're a shop steward, you really need to understand this stuff. But we'll walk through it. No agreement is good without a preamble, which is the us versus them definition. They recognize us as the official bargaining agent for wages, benefits, and employment in general for all the full and part-time workers. So just recognizing that we have a union, which matters as well going forward as we expand into other cities. Some definitions, just who's a full-timer, who's a part-timer. And one thing that was added this time around is formalizing the lead position, which a lot of you may be a lead and you may be very familiar with it, but basically it's not specifically talking about dollars, but talking about what you might do to become a lead, which is basically training, safety, otherwise supporting management in some fashion and with regard to procedures and quality control, things like that. We also defined a little bit more about a seasonal employee is, that it's a 9-month gig. We later defined that 9-month gig can only run from March 1st to November 30th. There is a letter of agreement or letter of understanding that I actually don't have in here, but we'll try to share it later, that pertains to other work that gets done outside of that window. And that's been primarily a New York issue, but a lot of things are primarily New York issues sometimes. But in any case, service commitment, nothing new here except the fact that we have a commitment to provide customer service, as do they. So if we think they're not doing that through whatever reason, that we have reasons to raise that. And if they're doing stupid things, we have a right to raise that through the grievance process and workers' council. Yes, they're not going to discriminate, and they're going to treat us with dignity and respect, or we certainly hope. Union security basically says that union members need to pay their dues. It's important now because we're part of a local 100 of TWU. It's going to be even more important when we spin off as our own local, which some of you may know that there's going to be a bike share independent local union, and all your dollars and cents are going to go to support our union, and we're going to be able to make more decisions, et cetera, a lot more on that in the coming months or so. One thing added in this year is when they post a job, because I had noticed this and it made no sense that they didn't mention that it was a union job. We are part of the 6% club, the 6% of private sector people who are in unions this day. Yes, the last 40 years have been obliterating unions, but so we're in an elite group, and this is kind of a no-brainer that they should mention that they offer a union job. Wages aside, whatever you think you're getting paid, fair or not fair, never enough, whatever, it is still, on top of that, it's a union gig, and hopefully that'll attract even better people. The employee orientation, which hopefully you all got, union orientation that is a 45-minute presentation, up from 30 minutes, so for someone like myself who talks a lot, it's helpful. Shop stewards, nothing new here. One per shift, and they, shall not interfere with the operation of the business, et cetera, et cetera. But most importantly, for all employees, that you will be the designated representative to attend any disciplinary or investigatory. Wow, I can't say that today. Meetings that could lead to discipline. So you are the first line of defense for all members out there on the floor or on the road. Um, Myself and my peers of other chief shop stewards get either a half a day or a full day per week to be in the office or in the shop to work on grievances, meet with management, chat with the members. That's whatever we've got to do that's union-specific business. New York has a whole day, and Bay Area has a whole day because they're bigger in multiple locations, and the rest of us have a half a day. They've also agreed to give some of us who are in leadership rights to get out to go to some union conferences if we ever get together as groups anymore, but that's another story. And when we do become our own union, the president of our said union, local, he or she will get relieved full-time to work on all of our issues. Unions, the visitation, basically, union representatives, people from the international or local 100 can just come on down, but we're not allowed to bring any other non-union visitors in, like, the 60 Minutes film crew or, the National Enquirer, without prior written notification from our people team. And this came out of an incident down in New York, and they didn't like the photographers there. It's kind of silly, but it meant a lot to them, so I guess we just said fine. Management rights. We were trying to just get this entire section deleted, but they kind of balked on that, so they still have some rights. And seriously, they have the rights to run their business. So hire, discipline, discharge, layoff, transfer, promote, demote, determine the starting and ending times, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the stuff we know that they do because it's their right to do it. But the bottom line is, it is further understood that in the exercise of any of the above rights, the employer shall not act in an arbitrary or capricious manner, or a stupid manner, too. We can't forget that. So basically, yes, they can run their business. If they do dumb things, they violate other aspects of this agreement, then of course we have the grievance process, the workers' council, and whatever else we might have to do to bring them to their senses. So, again, if the union contends that any new or revised regulation or rule violates any provisions of this agreement or is unreasonable or arbitrary or capricious, then we have the right to file a grievance. Nothing new on promotions and transfers. Job classifications, again, nothing new other than the fact that they have the right to create job descriptions. They can also put those in what is called the Schedule A, which documents officially the wages and also the agreement, the various job titles that are in your particular city. They have no particular reason to fund any of those, but they do have, basically they're saying that no work belongs to any particular employee, but that means we're still going to do what we're hired to do, but they can create new things. The Workers' Council, we've had a pretty robust Workers' Council forever. And some cities haven't had as robust a policy, but this is just some verbiage kind of reflecting some of the things that we've done in Boston. And I strongly encourage you to get involved in your Workers' Council if you can. 2 members rotate every 12 months, and the chief shop steward stays on through the duration. And you can actually get stuff done. A lot of times it's before you have to go to a grievance and raise hell. You can maybe have a rational conversation. It's possible. Health and safety has not particularly changed, but it is important, certainly in this day and age. I am a COVID-19 survivor as of today, so I am here to tell you that we need to be vigilant about our health and safety within the workplace. I think they've been doing a pretty good job. Doesn't mean people aren't uneasy, but if you're uneasy, you have a right to raise the issues and have a conversation with management, and we've been doing that on the national level as well. The Joint Safety Committee is something that has been kind of more formalized. We've been tacking it on to just last month, tacked it on to the end of the Workers' Council, but it is to identify safety matters, propose solutions, training, etc. And they do agree that they will work together to ensure that the Joint Safety Committee representative from the union is trained on relevant standards, hazard recognition, etc. So could be something you might want to get involved in, a little bit of visibility, etc. Next, Article 16, discipline and discharge. Again, we were just thinking maybe we should just get rid of this. But I don't know. But, again, they balked at that. So, yes, okay, they can discipline, discharge, suspend, etc., etc. Some of us may be more familiar with that process than we'd like to be. The following is the same list. I call them the mortal sins. Thou shalt not do these things, and they can just fire your butt for just, basically directly go and no $200. You know what I mean? They can just fire you right away. Doesn't mean we can't grieve it, but those are the things you have to pay attention to and never do them. Otherwise, progressive discipline. Again, reiterating, you have rights, federally ensconced rights to have representation during any particular meeting that is or might potentially lead to discipline. So the employee has rights, Your Honor. Grievance and arbitration are processes we may be very well familiar with. There is this informal resolution grievance like, hey, can't we just talk, use our words? Well, maybe not. Then we go to a step one if it's basically a non-disciplinary grievance, or to a step two, which is where we go immediately if it is a disciplinary or termination. If we can't use our words and work things out, then we have arbitration. The dues we pay, as I always say during orientations, is it's the cheapest legal retainer you can buy. So this gives us rights to go basically to court, go to an arbitrator. We present our case, they present their case, and it costs both sides money, so we qualify it well. But they don't like to spend money, so sometimes if you're threatening arbitration, then sometimes you can settle and get somebody's job back or right or wrong. So it's there. You can read through this sometime, but I'm going to keep moving along here. Oh, wages. Oh, I'll skip this. Oh, you want to hear about this? Okay. Section 1. So New York, New Jersey, Chicago, and D.C. are on a slightly different schedule from Boston and San Francisco. You basically have already gotten your 25-cent raise in 2020, and you'll be getting an additional retroactive 75 cents from whatever point we finally ratify this. So that's hopefully in May. Boston, again, this seemed like a good idea at the time, but we agreed that we have still a 25-cent raise that kicked in April 1st, then another one in October 1st, and then we synchronize with all our other brothers and sisters and in the other cities, and San Francisco will kind of join in this schedule when they renegotiate things in a year from now, because they came on board a little bit later, so they're a little out of sync at the moment. So basically, starting in 2021, it would be a total for all cities of $1.25 raise. Into 2022, $1.25 raise. 2023, $1 raise. So if you add that up, it's not insignificant over the course of the contract. Again, Boston is pretty much the same, a little bit less in that first year, but Boston does get Boston alone gets a seniority bonuses. If you've been here before, in 2018 or earlier, you get $100 per year of service, and that will be paid sometime, I guess, in May if we get all this done. So that's it on wages, and we're going to keep going here. Again, probationary period is not really changed, but just understand that you're not covered by the agreement, the grievance and arbitration process, that is. You are covered by the contract, if you will, but you can't grieve it. So just, as I say, just don't screw up for 90 days. Seniority is basically the same. There's company seniority and classification seniority. That does play into layoffs. We tried to make layoffs completely dependent on seniority alone, but after a lot of discussions, we did agree that they can use a variety of factors. The rationale being, if you have someone who never shows up on time, does poor work, but they arrived a week earlier than someone who's an amazing employee, maybe the amazing employee should be kept on for during the winter season or whatever. So that's that. And the progress, of course, is temps on call employees get laid off first, then seasonals, then part-time, and then full-time. And we're brought back in reverse order. And scheduling of employees, they again, this was a big issue in New York, and for all of us for that matter, is they will endeavor to create more Monday through Friday schedules so that you can basically have somewhat of a normal life. I know they try to slide a lot of folks into a weekend slot to cover the weekends because they can never hire enough people for the weekends. At least that was our experience in Boston. But hopefully they'll work out more Monday through Friday schedules. Moving along, overtime, yep, we still get that. Managers doing bargaining unit work is still the same. We have one fellow at our facility that is a little more eager that we keep an eye on, but they can do that for special occasions. People call out, emergency situations, etc. Audit title work doesn't really affect us in Boston too much because everybody pretty much, unless you're a lead, you pretty much make the same money. But if you're in a different city and you're a rebalancer and you're suddenly doing mechanics work for a day, you get paid the mechanics rate. And if you're a mechanic doing rebalancing work, you will still maintain your rate. In other words, you'll always make more, you'll never make less. And PTO, I'm going to do a separate little video on the time and attendance, but this is related to it. As some of you know, the time and attendance was really screwed up, taking out more hours in PTO than you were accruing, so you were at a deficit. And if you worked a 10-hour shift, you were only getting paid for 8 instead of getting paid for your 10 hours. Well, long painful story short, they fixed that accrual. You can see over here that it's accrual rate per hour worked, so you're accruing exactly what you work. So that's that, and you learn to love Dayforce to make it all work. STO is the new fancy acronym for sick time off, so that's just an HR thing they like to throw around, and we'll talk more about that later in the other video. Holidays remain about the same, except we now have a floating holiday beginning January 1st of the year following the date on which you became regular. So if you got basically hired in 2020, you'll get your floating holiday next year. Everybody else gets it this year. It can't roll over, but it's a floating holiday. Celebrate your birthday. We'll celebrate it with you. And leaves of absence. We have a pretty generous leave policy here. Won't go into all of these, except two of my favorites that people don't utilize at all. One is volunteer time off. You can get up to 16 hours every calendar year to participate in volunteer activities. They list some that you can't do, like anything that discriminates, anything that's religious, political activities of a partisan nature. But nonetheless, if you want to work at the animal shelter 2 days this year, you can probably go do that. And get paid for it. What's not to like? And voting leave. We've got an election this year. You may have heard about that. So in November, if you can't get to the polls, if you don't have 4 hours of time to get to the polls, you can get 2 hours of paid leave to go vote. So not bad. And we are told from our union representatives that this is pretty darn good for the age of our contract. So all the rest of this is legalese, full agreements, severability, blah, 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 blah. No one really cares about it, but it's what you need in agreements like this. So I'm going to wrap it up. Again, I'm John Goodwin in Boston, and hopefully you all will be ratifying this baby. Talk to your local leadership, and have a great and safe day. Talk to you later. Bye.